Now that we've discussed Maya's basic functionality in some detail, I want to talk about how to open a scene and how to save a scene. Also, I want to give you some additional tips for working with the interface that'll make life a little bit easier. So whenever you work in Maya, whatever you have in that 3D viewport, for instance, geometry or lights or cameras, is part of a Maya scene. And of course, you want to save that out every once in a while to save your work. At the same time, you can open a scene that was previously saved out. In fact, let's try that right now. If you want to open a scene, go up to File, Open Scene. When you choose Open Scene, the file browser will open. And you can go look for that scene that was saved out previously. Now you have some shortcuts here on the left under Folder Bookmarks that allow you to go to different directories or different drives. For instance, I can go to my desktop. Just click the word Desktop. Now I've actually saved a scene for you to try opening, and that's under the Working Files folder. So I can double-click a folder here in the central part to go into a folder, Working Files. In this case, I've saved a scene out in Chapter 2. So Working Files Chapter 2. And there's a scene you can try opening. It's called test.mb. To open it, just click the name, which will place the name down here under File Name, and then press Open. Now I want to mention that Maya saves out files in a special format, and those have the .mb extension. So if you see something that has a name .mb, it's a Maya binary file, which is a proprietary format for Maya. So in case I've selected this, and now I can press Open. And there's a scene that was saved out previously. In this case, it's a torus that's in the center of the grid. Now as you make changes to a scene, say you build new geometry or create animation or whatever it happens to be, of course you want to save every once in a while. So there's two ways to save in Maya. If you go back up to File, you can choose Save Scene or Save Scene As. Now if you have not saved out a file yet, you can choose Save Scene As. Also, if you want to give a file a new name, you can choose Save Scene As. So in this case, I'll choose Save Scene As, and I can choose a new file name right here. Under File Name, I'll just type a new one in, like Test3. I can also choose to save it in a different location if I want to. For instance, maybe I want to save this on my C drive of my computer. I'll go up to my computer, click that, go to my C drive, double-click that, and then choose a folder. So maybe this is a folder I want to save that scene file in. So once I have the folder selected and the name of my file, I can press Save As. And now it's saved. You can tell what scene you're working on at any given time by looking at the top bar of your window. I can see that I'm working on Test 3 right now, which I just saved out. Now the other choice for saving is to choose File Save Scene. That's where you overwrite the old file. For instance, I'm working on Test 3 right now, so I can choose to go to File Save Scene and overwrite Test 3 once again. In other words, if I've made some changes and I choose Save Scene, it will write over the top of the old Test 3 file. It's just a way to update the same file. Now it's up to you. I would suggest, however, using Save Scene As every once in a while. And that way you'll have a series of files. For instance, you can save Test 1, Test 2, Test 3, Test 4 in a series. And that's great in case you want to go back to an older scene, or in case a file gets corrupted or lost and you have a number of copies you can tap into. In any case, whichever one you choose, it's a good idea to save periodically as you do more and more work. Now another option for dealing with scenes is to make a new scene. If you go up to File, New Scene, you can create a new scene. And what a new scene is one that's empty. It's a default scene, and there's nothing in it. And it's a great place to start out from scratch. So if I choose New Scene, my old scene, which was Test 3, goes away, and now I have an empty scene. I know it's empty because I can look up here at the top and it says Untitled. That means it has not been saved out yet. So because I just applied New Scene, haven't saved it out, I'm starting from scratch here. Now whenever you choose New Scene, obviously the previous scene you were working on goes away. Now you can always reopen an old scene if you want to. It's up to you. That's how you deal with scenes in terms of saving and opening. Now, there's a few other tips I wanted to mention in terms of dealing with the interface and working in Maya that will come in handy. Now the first is the fact that sometimes in these videos you'll see some of the geometry or some of the primitives as wireframe, and sometimes you'll see them shaded. Now I'm going to create some geometry just for now. We'll talk more about how to create geometry later on. But just for now, I'm going to go to Create and make a primitive sphere. So there's some geometry, and I'm going to dolly into that so you can see it. So this is a wireframe. It's just a wire outline of the surface. Now, I can also shade that by going up to the View Panel menu and going to Shading, Smooth Shade All. And then it's shaded. So you'll see some of the videos have stuff that's already shaded, and that's how you do that. Now you can always go back to wireframe if you want to by going up to Shading and choosing wireframe once again. And wireframe is the default. Now this is a per window option. In other words, you can change this for each view panel separately. If I go back to a 4 view, here are my 4 windows. Now you have a shading menu for each one, so I can make one smooth shade all and leave the others as wireframe if I want to. That's up to you. Alright, so that's how you shade the view, going to the shading menu. Now another tip is undo. Anytime you need to undo something, because maybe you made a mistake or did something that's not quite right, you can go up to Edit Undo. And just like many other programs, undo will undo the prior step. If I choose undo right now, it does my deselection. If I do it again, it's going to undo the creation of that sphere. So it simply steps back each time. So again, if you want to undo something, go up to Edit Undo, and that will allow you to undo the previous step. You can also press Ctrl-Z on your keyboard. Ctrl-Z is a shortcut for undo. So if you do something that's not quite right, you can always go back one step with undo. And you could do undo over and over and over again to go further and further back in time. Now, the last tip I wanted to mention in this video is how to bring up the attribute editor. We're going to talk about the attribute editor in more detail down the road. Now, there's a tab at the right of my screen here, which is a shortcut. If I click that, the editor comes up. And if I had a piece of geometry or something else selected, information would appear in here. Now, if you do not see these 2 tabs here along the right, they could be hidden. One way to bring those up is to press Ctrl-A. So for instance, I'm going to hide my editor right now. I'm just going to click my channel box, and now my editor is gone. So if I'm missing these 2 tabs, what I can do is press Ctrl-A on my keyboard, and that pops up the attribute editor. Now, the first time you do Ctrl-A, you'll be able to get these tabs. So the tabs were hidden, they'll come back at that point. So again, Ctrl-A will bring that up. You can also collapse the attribute editor with Ctrl-A once again. So if it's already visible, click Ctrl-A, and that just collapses it.